Yeah, I shared an example. I use Claude Code to build a racing simulator trainer for me. In my spare 20 minutes I have each week, I get out my racing wheel and race before the Formula One race to know what the track's going to be for the Formula One race. And I had Claude Code build me an app that tracks my segment times and shows me how I'm improving. So it was fun. You know, that's what this is, right? Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming again. Whose first time is it to a Birmingham AI meeting as a whole? Awesome. Thank you for coming. Whose first time is it to the Birmingham AI Engineering Breakout, but you've been to a regular meeting? All right, cool. We've attracted some more people. So this is not the big meeting. This is the Engineering Breakout where we get to go a little bit deeper into the technology and how it's impacting software developers, product teams, etc. We have a main meetup that happens every month where this room is fully packed out. We hope that you come to our November meeting. William, are we taking December off entirely?
There are a couple breakouts that we don't have December.
Okay.
There's not a
all right. Yeah, so your last chance to experience Birmingham AI, for the most part, this year is in November. So we want to see you back in a few weeks. Today, this is sponsored by Slice. So maybe you didn't know that Slice does other things besides just pizza. So they provided the meal for today. We are always thankful for the sponsors. They make this possible. They provide the food for you. And so thank you to Slice today. We don't have anybody here from Slice, do we, that wants to get up and talk? Slice is amazing and great food. Check them out. Thank you, Slice, for sponsoring this. All right, for those of you who haven't been here, I say this at the beginning of every meeting, which is that we have a vision and a mission at Birmingham AI, and specifically within this engineering breakout group. Our vision is for Birmingham to have one of the highest per capita concentrations of elite AI engineers in the Southeast and stand as a model for how cities can transform their software talent in the AI world. We want you to be a part of that vision. We want you to feel connected to it. And when we relaunched this meetup a few months ago, this is the new vision that we established. How do we get to that vision? We get there by creating an elite core of AI engineers in Birmingham through hands-on training and connection. We'll do this by getting the very best engineers in Birmingham in the same room every month. That's what this meeting is, and we want to continue to live into this mission and this vision. If you have a way for us to do this or to do it better, let us know. When we ask for feedback, please provide your feedback so we can continue to make this better. We have a fun meeting today. I get to start by talking about what's new in AI coding this month. I'll talk for a few minutes, and then we have the great Lee Daniel coming up and talking a little bit about AI code review and specifically what they're learning at Kesis. But let me get started. This has been a crazy month in AI coding. Does anybody else feel like that? Anybody else feel like that? It's been crazy. So I'm just going to start by covering some of the highlights. There's going to be things that I'm not even able to get to right now. But if you've been paying attention to Anthropic, you might have seen their new skills functionality. Has anybody seen this? Has anybody played with it yet? Anybody had the chance? Okay, that's where most people are. It's not like the best documented feature because it really just came out. But this is a new way to interact with Claude as a whole and also Claude Code. And I think I've got some information here. I'm not going to read this word by word, but just up at the biggest, the biggest point I want you to take away is up at the top, which says, while working on tasks, Claude scans the available skills to find relevant matches. When one of it matches, it's going to load in the information needed and then start to use that skill. So there's been some other functionality that's been out there, such as sub-agents, if you've used that inside Claude Code. Before, there's slash commands, which you can trigger yourself by typing a slash and then whatever the command name is. Now they have skills, and this is something that they're trying to use across all of Claude, whether it's Claude Code or the desktop version. They're really trying to make this a way going forward that you can provide better context, instructions, or documentation around a specific task that needs to get done. And we expect this to increase a lot, the usage of skills to increase a lot over the next few months. Ethan Mollick is a writer in the AI space, and he said, model context protocol has been out for a while as this way to connect context in to your systems and tools. He thinks something like skills is going to actually be more impactful and used more in the short term as organizations figure out how to package up context around what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and organizations continue to use a tool like Claude. Go for it. He doesn't, right? And he talks
about technology.
Sure, it's a fair point. He was really speaking more broadly about skills used in the Claude desktop version. So for non-technical users, and MCP can also be used by non-technical people in a tool like Claude Desktop. And I think that is where he was focused. For this group, that's a good point. We're seeing a lot of great use out of MCP. There's also some security concerns like you brought up earlier with MCP. Skills, though, do seem to be like one of the best ways to package up information about what you're doing. You can easily envision a test writer skill that you provide good documentation about your tests that need to be written, what needs to be done there. Or a security reviewer. It's another one that we've seen being used where you say, before I submit this PR, I want you to review my code for security issues and go do this. Go find the latest CVEs and make sure that we're not adding any vulnerabilities into our code. So the first thing here, skills. Check it out. There is some good Claude Code, the beginnings of some good Claude Code documentation for you to look at. This is what it ends up looking like inside your actual repo, is that you can define a skill directory. Then you have the skill.md file, which will get ingested by the AI. You can provide optional documentation, optional examples of what you want the output to look like. You can provide scripts that it can call and run, and then templates as well. So there's a lot of information and a lot of ways that you can package this up together. Before, teams were just like figuring out ways to kind of hack this, and now there's an actual standard that Claude Code has written for you. Things like these helper scripts are pretty nifty as well. You can have it clean things up. It can go fetch data from somewhere for you. So just really powerful way to create a composite feature here for your team. Now that leads me to the next thing that I wanted to cover with Claude Code, and that is plugins. Has anybody seen plugins? Anybody use these yet? Okay. Well, Anthropic realized that, like, man, now we've got slash commands, skills, we've got context files, we have sub agents, we have all these features that we've talked about in these meetings. It's getting a little bit unwieldy of how to control these things and how to share them with your company. And so they created a standard for plugins, which allow you to package up all of these things and then share them with your team members. So now you can have a plugin for your company that everybody else can just easily download and get up and running inside Claude Code very quick. And it will have skills, it will have context files, sub-agent configuration, hooks. You've heard about these. There's just so much in Claude Code. We can't spend every meeting reviewing all the content. Plugins is a new way to spread this information across your company or team. And then you could also create it for specific examples and share outside of your company or team as well. What it will end up looking like is that you can come in and manage your plugins and quickly turn them or enable them or disable them. So you could do this, maybe you have a particular plugin about security guidance that you want to have active when you're working with a particular repo that has a higher security and compliance concern. You can turn it on. They're working on a marketplace of these plugins, so it's easy to find things and pull them down and use Claude Code. They really want people inside Claude Code, especially as competition rises in the CLI coding space. Check out plugins if you haven't yet. Anthropic just ships. And when I was reviewing this content for this month, it just like was blowing my mind. I was like, wait, did all of this happen since we met a month ago? And it did. All of this stuff happened. I can't go into all of it. They released Claude Sonnet 4.5. Then they released Claude Haiku 4.5, which is the smaller model that can do a lot of the file applying code changes after code's been suggested. In addition to it, they released their new MCP connector to Microsoft 365 that you can also use inside Claude Code to now have Claude Code search your email or search your SharePoint documents for you. And then the last thing, developer specific, is they added in better context editing inside their API. So if you're someone who's building an application with Claude, one of the things you have to manage is context. They gave an example of using this with Settlers of Catan, where before, when it was playing each turn, it was trying to remember everything that happened in every single turn. It eventually ran out of space and just had to forget some of the information that happened earlier or try to compact it in an unintelligent way. They've now made it easier for you as a developer to decide what gets saved in memory and how to summarize up information. And it's going to allow developers to build longer lasting, bigger applications that have better control over context. But Anthropic just ships. Like, that's my big takeaway from this. If you're choosing a coding tool right now, there are beginning to be a lot of good options. I'm still backing Anthropic because of how fast they are shipping this stuff and how the functionalities that they offer inside their features just continue to remain clearly ahead of the competition. But enough about Anthropic. What else happened? Microsoft is putting in a big effort, and I've been impressed with the change in velocity that they've had. They're now moving faster, and I think that's a good thing. Copilot's coding agent is now generally available. Most of you probably already had access to it in some way because it was pretty much already available to everybody, but now it's hit GA. So if you have a Copilot plan inside GitHub, you can now easily assign Copilot to a task and it can start doing some work for you. Who's used this feature? Okay. Who's used a feature like it with Claude Code or another coding agent? Okay. If you haven't yet gotten to the point where you can assign a GitHub issue to an AI agent, that's some homework for this next month. Get there and try it out. It should be really easy now. I think you can pay like $10 a month and get access to something like this. Get there and start trying it out. On every ticket you're going to work, okay, maybe every's too much, but on many tickets that you're going to work on, have AI take a stab at it first and see what it gets good, what it gets wrong, and figure out how you can improve the AI output. But get to this point. In addition, they also released the Copilot CLI tool. This is a tool that's very similar to Claude Code, at least on the surface, meaning it's a command line interface tool for their coding agent. You fire it up in the terminal, and then you have access to a coding agent inside or on the command line. Has anybody used the GitHub CLI tool, Copilot CLI tool? Any thoughts you want to share? Yep, and I would sum it up that way too. In addition to this, Cursor CLI came out a couple of months ago. So we're seeing, for whatever reason, us developers like to stay inside the terminal on the command line. It makes sense, right? And so a lot of people said, man, this Claude Code CLI version is just not that accessible. How long is this going to last? Something like Cursor is the obvious better solution. Well, now everybody else is playing catch up to Claude Code and saying, we've got to come out with a CLI tool now. So this came out, we played around with it. Again, it works, but not nearly as featureful as something like Claude Code. You have much less control over creating great repeatable context that can be used in different situations or creating sub-agents. So there's some work that Microsoft still has to do here to get it to a point where I would truly use it as a daily driver writing code, but a good start here, and I'm impressed that they came out with it this quickly, if I'm honest. So good job, Microsoft. And then the last picture from a Copilot standpoint is GitHub Spark is now in public preview. You've got to be an enterprise client. I think I first heard about this like a year and a half ago. I don't know when I first heard about it. So it's taken them a long time to get to public preview, but it's there. And this is a tool that's similar to another, what we call app builder, like Replit or Lovable, where you can just have a chat conversation inside an editor, and then it's going to build a full app for you. Has anybody had the chance to play around with GitHub Spark? I didn't think so. It's like I said, it's just in public preview for enterprise customers, so not as many people have access to it. The reason I showed it is just to say Microsoft is trying. They are trying really hard to get to the place where when a company looks at adding licenses for AI in software development, they just say, man, we can just add on these licenses for Copilot and we get A, B, C, D for only $20 more per head per month. And so that's the choice we're going to make. Microsoft is trying to get there, and they're getting close. They're trying to have a tool in every vertical in this space. I've already said that my option still right now is with Anthropic, but we're talking to business leaders who are deciding between adding $150 subscription for every user per month for Claude Code versus $20 more per user for GitHub Copilot. And yeah, Microsoft's doing a good job here. What else? What have I missed that you want to call out? Does anybody have anything that's happened in the last month? There was a lot. Had to be selective. Yep. Yep. So new Python coding agents in GA. Love it. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that was at their dev day just about a month ago, if I'm thinking through the time right. Yep, more and more. Well, awesome. This has been a crazy month. And like I said, Anthropic ships, Microsoft's catching up, and there's been a lot of progress along other tools as well. So we're going to do this every month. You can come here to find the signal out of all the noise that's happening in the AI coding world. Now we get to turn it over to have an AI code review conversation by Lee Daniel. So let's give a round of applause as Lee comes up.
Okay. All right, sound check, everybody can get on that? Awesome. All right, so just to kind of put a little tail on what Will was talking about, I know Microsoft has definitely taken that approach of just, $20 a month or whatever. Google, we're seeing the same thing, right? So Google's absolutely doing the same thing, making a little bit of that, just a little bit of extra. I would agree that it's not as good as Anthropic and Claude, but for the most part, it's good enough, and that's kind of what we're going to show here. To kind of take y'all back before we really get into this, we're going to talk about AI code review, but where this originates is back in March, right? N8N, very new. The code review that's in Azure DevOps and GitHub, fairly new. And we're just kind of starting to get into these tools as an organization, right? We've been playing around with them individually. Now we're trying to take this to the organization. So, I'm going to give you a little more background. We're going to show you kind of how we got started, because I think the experimentation is important. Just kind of like how you sort of dip your toe in the water and get started there. And then kind of what happened for us in terms of the drivers to sort of get us to the current solution that we have. I'm going to show you guys some examples and demos, and then kind of go over the organizational changes that we've seen as a result, right? Which, again, I think that's important, right? It's cool and all, but if it doesn't actually do anything for you, it only has so much of a shelf life. So All right, so again, we saw these things in GitHub and Azure DevOps. We didn't have them in Bitbucket. We largely work in Atlassian. Bitbucket didn't exist. Why don't I get to have that, right? Like, I want it to. So how can we get that into our organization? You know, we had a little bit of N8N workflow automation going. We had a little bit of AI-assisted development at this point. This is way back in the beginning of the year. And I really needed to increase our adoption rates internally of the AI dev. We needed to build confidence in doing AI dev internally. And I wanted some good standards for doing it, right? So that's kind of the drivers behind these things. All right, so in general, what we did is we used N8N, and when the PR gets updated, created, we're gonna trigger, right? I'm gonna gather as much context as I can. I want all the PR details that I can get, the title, the description, the comments, the diff, and then I wanna actually perform that review, and then I'm gonna put it out as a comment, okay? So, and I don't wanna gloss over this, context is key to everything, right? Everything that we're doing, whether it's code gen, whether it's reviews, whether it's any other kind of AI applications that you're using, context is key, right? So getting a good context together is really kind of the key bit. So that's where we started. We also do code we're a consultancy, right? We work in lots of other people's code. So I couldn't just put this out into the world in some general AI model. It needs to be something that's sandboxed for us. I know I have all the security there. Everything's going to be secure. It's going to be sustainable. And it's going to be relatively fast. So at this time, where we were, Gemini 2.0, and actually Flash didn't even need the other model. Flash is good enough for what we were doing. We got really good performance out of that, and this is really where we started. All right. And then the other things that we did at the same time, we wanted to enhance context with our AI-assisted development as well. We needed better AI rules, right? We're very new. We don't have good AI rules yet. So we actually open sourced the rules. We're using the rules not only to gen code, but also to do the code reviews. So you kind of have this adversarial thing going, right? One thing making, one thing critiquing, everybody using the same context, right? And you get kind of you get a really good review that way, and you can call out shortcomings, right? I want you to tell me when that rule isn't good enough, or when you don't have a rule, right? Fill in the gap for me. So that was the biggest thing to kind of accelerate this, is having it actually tell us when something wasn't sufficient, when it had to make a guess, when it was just unsure. We integrated this into our CI/CD pipeline fully everywhere. And then the other kind of unanticipated benefit that this had was it actually put some really nice guardrails on our vibe coders. So at the same time, our executive and management folks are vibe coding, and they're actually producing things at this stage, right? And they aren't maybe as careful as the engineers would be. They don't necessarily know how to tell it what an engineer would tell it in the way an engineer would tell it. So the code review actually did a really good job of going, okay, hey, that's a security thing. Hey, that's really inefficient. Those aren't really our best practices, and it was a good guide for them to kind of clean things up. So I just want to start with the rules and kind of how we did this and how we open sourced it. So we literally created a repo, and we put the rules in it. And we divided the rules up into just like overall guidance, right? So just here's your persona, here's some general coding principles, like here's all the basics. And then front-end coding rules, back-end coding rules for our C# folks, back-end coding rules for our Node folks, document DB rules, relational DB rules. And so you can see if you're using a tool like Cursor, something else like that, where you have all these rules in there, you can turn them on and off based on what project you're in and all that kind of good stuff. We actually deliver these by NuGet package. So you check it in, builds the package, you can pull it in, keeps everybody up to date and everything. We found this to be like a very effective way of sort of if you find a problem, contribute, right? Put the rules in. Now everybody has the change to the rules. Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Got a little better? But, you know, so it's standard stuff here, right, guys? All right. Okay, so for the current solution, we actually, we decided we were going to keep the human in the review. The goal was never to fully automate and have the code review, maybe have some agent get the feedback and fully fix everything. We wanted a human in the loop, so the goal for us was to get a really good output that's kind of a guidepost for the human reviewer to go through and do the code review. Maybe highlight some things that they wouldn't have otherwise looked at and seen. So, you know, we wanted to call out how much is new and rework and refactor, give me some quality grading on, you know, standards and best practices, give me some focus areas to look at as a reviewer, and give me that kind of issue detection. And we also ended up caching by commit hash. So let's say you got in there as a reviewer and you gave some more feedback based on the review. That doesn't kick off another code review, right? Nothing's changed. Until you actually push more code, everything is set. That was an important one. Otherwise, it'll kind of spin that thing off a lot. And then this is what I think where it kind of really gets interesting. So we are now in Bitbucket and GitHub. So our developers work in Azure DevOps, GitHub, and Bitbucket. They've seen the automated code reviews from the other two platforms. They like the Bitbucket one so much that we actually ended up putting this in our GitHub and using it instead. We're doing hundreds of pull requests a month easily. It's costing us a nickel. So well worth it. And we're up to Gemini 2.5 Flash now. We're probably 10 to 12 iterations into this workflow that I'm about to show y'all. And we've probably done, I don't know, 3 dozen revisions to the rules at this point, just after that kind of initial kind of sprint, you know, to get those things in there. So all really good things and really good, I think, practical. Hopefully that really kind of shows y'all the practicalities of this. All right. We're going to zoom way in on this. All right. So, yeah, this is going to be a relatively long N8N workflow. I really want y'all just to focus on the big things, though. The first thing is just gathering basic info, right? I need the rules. I need the PR details. I'm going to get some details like the comments, the comment diff. We're going to hash it so that we can track it, right? So just making a quick hash on the commit and the PR details just so that I don't do it again, right? Don't analyze the same thing over. Something's got to significantly change, and we track that in a database. Then we're going to get you all the good stuff here in a second with the AI. And then if we have linked Jira issues, because Bitbucket's really good about that, right? Linking over between Jira and Bitbucket, and we grab the Jira issues and throw them in there for additional context. Because one of the things we want to check for is that the thing that you actually committed, and I'm sure you guys never do this as devs, you never commit code that isn't related to the ticket you were working on, right? Never ever. So we're doing that as well, right? To sort of call that out if you do any work that isn't what you were planning on doing. So just go, I think, here. So this is what we started out with, right? So this is the system prompt. So you're a software architect. I want you to output in Markdown. I don't ever want you to do line breaks yourself. Just put things in there like they are, all that kind of good formatting rules. And then give me an estimated time to review. Give me a change mix. Give me a quality grade on the different things. You know, categorize my issues and tell me what they are. Give me potential things. You know, all this kind of good stuff. And then we inject those, all that nice cache of, it's a nightly cache of the AI rules right into there for the system prompt. And this is the same bit. So every single thing, this is the system prompt, right? If you guys are doing anything else like this, I would love for other people to send along whatever it is that they're doing here too, because I think that's the most interesting part. With the in the agent here, we also, you know, provide all the Jira. This is where we're given the rest of the context, right? The first thing is just kind of setting up what your task is. This is all the context. Here's your Jira details. Here's your PR details. And that's really what we did. So we learned over time to add a little bit more to this. We have noticed that the GitHub diff tends to be more verbose than the Bitbucket diff. So, you know, your mileage may vary on context windows there, but for the most part, that's kind of the deal. All right. So let's get into some small examples, then I'm going to show you all what a full one looks like. So real world things that it caught. And again, I'm sure no one's ever done any of these mistakes, but, you know, and this is the Wild West that we're in now with anybody able to code. So an engineer might know better, maybe not. Maybe they're just having an off day. Maybe somebody else comes in here and is doing some things, and they check in the service account details. Not great. Don't need that. But I definitely need to know that that happened. It's going to flag that up. And this is pretty formatted, but this is the text straight out of the feedback that we have in the code reviews, right? So again, you know, that's a really great call out. That's an extremely good call out, and the sooner you know that, the better. Nobody wants their stuff found on an open repository somewhere. We don't really have any of those anyway, but like, nevertheless, the sooner you know, the better. Here's something a little more benign, but maybe equally as important. So inconsistent handling of dates, right? So I'm trading off dates back and forth, and I have the chance of not being able to convert data, right, from one screen to the next, or API to screen, or whatever. That's important. So this is another kind of thing that it's calling out. SDK replacement. I inconsistently replace the Firebase SDK in the app, right? If that happens, that's something that you want to know. And then data validation. This was another really good call out. So we had a thing that was using invoices. The source data, the example data that we gave it, had alphanumeric invoice numbers. The code gen had done numeric invoice numbers as a handler. It caught it and said, hey, that's not going to work. So that's, again, could have found it in testing maybe, but you found it in the code review immediately. So again, I just, you know, I want y'all to just, hopefully we're getting the value. And then this was a logical behavioral issue, right? Just where the workflow wasn't going to do what you wanted it to do. So in this case, the ticket described the workflow. It identified that the workflow didn't match. So let's actually go to the workflow. So in the workflow one, this is basically how this came back. So the code logic clarity was no good. You can tell it was 100% rework. So this is something that was already being fixed, right? How consistent is it with styles? How consistent is it with a work item? It's giving you some instant feedback of exactly what to look for, specific things to look at. And again, this is a little verbose, but it's okay, right? Like you would have had to weed through all the different code and find these things yourself. Now this is giving you a really good checklist of things just to go through and do, right? So that's what that looks like. Any questions at this point? Because I think we're pretty much to demo time. Yes. 100% of the time. 100% of the time. Yeah. So, yeah, it's part of our process. We actually have a SOC 2 Type 2 on our development process, and so that's part of it. So we have to do it 100% of the time. So all right, so let's just go make some trivial changes, and just so I can show you guys what this actually looks like. Anybody? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. You absolutely could. We do not. No. So things where, yeah, so maybe you've got a CVE or maybe you're just outdated or those sorts of things. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely one of the rules. It'll call those out. Yeah, yeah. If it deprecated libraries, so or just things that are out, yeah, are you checking dependencies? So yeah, it will check that stuff occasionally. And we also have other tools that are in the CI/CD process looking for those things. As far as the feedback loop though goes, it's entirely manual, right? Like people are looking at it, they call it out, they just don't approve it. You got to fix it. Right? Yeah, you'll still have a manual code review, but what's happened is what we've actually seen, and we probably actually see it in this the one that I just showed. So no, I guess not. One of these others. Yeah. So what you'll see here is it did the code review. He's immediately got a new commit. Does another review. Immediately has another commit, and it does the commit right because the right. Well, you don't want to be the guy, right? That like put something that's not. Yeah. So it's a good behavior change, right? Yeah. All right. Okay, so this is a relatively old application that I'm going to show. So what we're going to do is just basically ask it to take this file, bring it up to standards, right? Use my AI rules, refactor this thing for what we're doing. So this will generate a pretty simple code change. Something that would be, it's a single file. It's going to be a relatively straightforward review. But it'll show off all the different things that are happening here because we're going to check it in. We're going to link it to the ticket number. We're going to link it to, we're doing all those things. We do use MCPs and other things to pull down information, kind of do this whole thing. But I think for this demo, I wanted to keep it simple for y'all so that we're focused on what we're doing today and not any of the other stuff. It's just about done. let it write our change for us. Why not? Probably more verbose than anything I would have written without it. And we'll push that. Okay, create our PR. And again, we're doing some of this stuff automatically, but I don't want to really get into any of that with this particular demo. Oh, my PR was too long. That's okay. All right, so now what's going to happen, we've created a PR. This, we will see, is running now. It's already kicked off. It's already running the analysis. It takes about 30 seconds usually to run. It's pulling in PR info. It's pulling in the Jira info. It's, actually generating the code review. And we'll have a result here in a minute. Of course, we're going slower because it's demo time. Yeah, rule of demos, right? It might actually be done. Yeah. All right. So I guess we'll let that go and come back to it. But you can see, it thinks about 30% is new. It estimated about 25 minutes. I will say this is usually wildly overdone. It never takes, a person would never take as long as it says it does. That's my only complaint, really, but it's okay. We've learned relatively what it means. Code style consistency is good, so that's good. Alignment with work items is good. Code rule adherence is good. And there you go. So we did a good job of doing it. It did not like the rendering loop. That's probably some older React stuff that's going to have to get cleaned up. Memo is okay. It's got a little nitpicky one here in case you want to deal with it or not. And then there's no unit case. There's no unit tests for this control, which is true. So it's just suggested some things to do. So overall, that's very useful. It's all very relevant. It's all legitimate critiques of the code change that was done. But there you go. So let's see if we can refresh this, see it done. All right. All right. So you can see it got all the context. You can see that we went through our Jira branch. We actually got all our Jira stuff, and then worked through it. So there you go. I'll take questions on that at the end. I'll just make sure we get to the end of that if anybody wants to dig in more detail on that. All right, so organizational impact. Again, I think this is maybe one of the most important things. Like, doing things that are cool is cool, but it doesn't actually move the needle at the organization. It was just cool. It wasn't anything more than that. Incremental excellence. When we started this thing, it was just okay, right? But that was okay. We got incrementally better, and again, doing this quickly and getting this in there was far better than waiting on it to be perfect, right? I think that's an important thing for all of us as we're playing around with these things. It doesn't have to be awesome, right? Like, just get in there and try some things and keep making little improvements, it'll get there. Proactive debt management. As you saw in the pattern of that one PR example, the devs are much more proactive in catching tech debt and handling it immediately. It used to be that maybe they would make a ticket, right? Oh yeah, I'll come back and get that. Here's another ticket. I'll get around to that. Now they're like, oh, I don't want to be the guy that checked in code that's clearly called out. So it's they're doing that much more. Enhancing our AI rules made our rules better. It's calling out what I don't know, what I'm having to guess on. We do a lot of internal NuGet packages. One of the very first things it called out is, I don't know if that NuGet package number is right or not, right? Like, I don't know, does that match your NuGet package numbering scheme? Couldn't tell you, right? It's like, so just things like that, you could start getting it figured out and get a lot better quicker. The devs started trusting the code because the code quality was getting better. They started trusting the AI because they could see the AI being critical of itself and kind of figuring out what it didn't know, right? And close that gap a lot quicker. I don't think that confidence can be underestimated, that confidence building. Faster adoption. It very quickly made it so it was like, well, why aren't you doing this, right? Like it's a no-brainer now. It doesn't make sense for you not to do it. And very quickly, this was an extremely quick adoption cycle once we kind of got this going, right? Accountability, right? Again, just greater accountability and all that kind of good stuff for everybody. It's really important. And efficient reviews. So we certainly had bigger things that would sit longer. I think everybody has that, right? The bigger the review, the longer it sits. Now it's way less scary to dive in because you actually know where you need to go focus. You really understand, maybe a lot of it was just linting, and here's just the actual things you need to go focus on, right? So that, that has really helped us, and that's been great organizationally. That's it. So at this point, I will take questions. I'm happy to talk about kind of the journey or how we actually did it or anything else that you guys might be interested in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it totally, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so the question was basically there's, in the feedback, there seemed to be some things that were beyond the scope of the actual change that was calling out, and that's true, beyond the scope of the change of the code. But I think it has to do with the dev standards and the dev standards on the project, right? So if the dev standards are, one of the things that we've done with AI coding is there's really kind of no excuse not to document anymore. There's no excuse not to do unit tests anymore. There's no excuse not to do those things. It takes so little time and effort to tell the AI to just go write your test, right? So those are things that we've changed internally. And so we wanted to call those out because very little effort to actually go and address them at this point. Yeah, so that was a decision that we made. Yes. No, we don't. I mean, you certainly could, right? You could certainly, a lot of people have, and some of our repos have it where every single commit kicks off a build, and so you can go check those things and do all that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. You could absolutely go collect it if you wanted it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah. We're actually assessing it here. We're asking it to grade the quality and we're telling it to do everything within the rules, any inferred concerns, any missing tests or docs, any security risks, like we're specifically calling those things out against the rules. Yeah.
How would you mention the
if you wanted to fix it, you know, I think I would probably start just telling it to take whatever it said and have it, because that's usually about right. And that's probably good enough, honestly. I don't usually try to, with these things, we're not trying to nail it. We're just trying to get in the zone, right, where somebody, a person can deal with it.
that's just like
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's as simple as updating this prompt here. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. So we chose to use N8N because we were very early on in N8N adoption at the company. And so this was a good just kind of sandbox or short project to try it out in and really use it. So that's really why we chose it. It's turned out to be a pretty good use case for it. And ended up being really easy to take it and just hook it up to everything Bitbucket. And instead of having to configure the pipeline for each project, it actually hits every single repo we have, and they're auto added, and like we don't have to do anything. It's very little maintenance.
another cool thing is like you can take part of it and then like sitting that something else.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like once you collect all this information like right now to get to this final output, but they're also like hashing conversations where
Sure. Question here?
Yeah, very nice boy. Use Google Flash across the board. Try to get the models. Use off-the-shelf Flash.
Yeah, so we go through Vertex or Palm for the API keys that we're using for this. Again, that puts it inside of the Google Cloud project that's sandboxed in our workspace. So we know everything is good from a security standpoint. Flash has been good enough for the reviews. We kind of alternate between Flash and Pro for doing the actual dev. It just kind of depends on how complex the work item is that you're trying to tackle. No, we're not. It's pretty obvious when it's worse. So it's Google. Google is admittedly a little bit behind, like Claude, right? Or so every incremental improvement that they're making right now is a good leap forward for the most part. We haven't reached the point of like.
Are you using any evals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could absolutely put. Yeah, exactly. You could put a trigger that's your test cases that you want to eval and flow them through if you wanted to test it.
Yeah, I've heard
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we've been very, very happy with it. Like I said, we've got developers working in other people's Azure environments, other people's GitHub environments, and they prefer this style review to the other things they're doing. All right. Awesome. Thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone. We will have another meetup next month. Sorry, we don't have the QR code. AWS is down. No.
So, has anybody suffered from AWS outage today? Anybody? Eventbrite is down, and so we can't
Yes.
get the new link. So don't scam this link.
Not
Only
this
the
one?
right one.
Not this one?
It's back up. So, all right, scan the
Okay.
web feedback.
And
We'll get the other one.
yeah, we'll get the other link out via email.
Yes.
We have your emails.
Yeah.
I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.